Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday. It's the day the Lord has made, and we are going to rejoice and be glad in this day. If you are looking for a reason to be dour and sour and down and depressed, you are not going to want to pay attention to this live stream. How's that for an introduction? Oink, I see you got a question there about the flesh. Quite possibly that could be talking about the flesh because there are Jewish themes in Ephesians, and he could be talking about how that aroused the sin in the Jews, or he could be talking about something else, but we're going to save that for another time. Appreciate the question, though. All right. So, as if you've been around very long, you know that I am on a mission, maybe several missions. One mission, of course, is to help us just read the Bible and take it as delivered, but also to help Christians walk in the joy of the Lord. So I come back to this theme a lot. I interject it wherever I can. We must be a joyful people. And one of the things I have found is that so much of Christian teaching encourages rejoicing in salvation, of course, which is the greatest gift and the greatest cause of joy we could have, and the hope that we have long term, right? But we too quickly set aside the ongoing gifts, blessings of the Lord. We become, functional Gnostics, where we're afraid we're going to become of this world and caught up in this world and worldly if we actually enjoy this life. And so part of my mission is to counteract that and say, nope, where the Lord pours out blessing, we need to thrive and enjoy it and see it and give him thanks for it. So we're going to talk about some of those things today because it is a great day to be alive. And if you happen to have something that you like to sip, like coffee or something else, it's a good gift of the Lord. I'm going to have a drink right now. That's very good. Very good. All right. So first thing I want to do this day is a little wellness check-in. If you were with us back in January, I challenged us to take charge of our health to the degree that we are able to. There are things that happen to us that we don't have a lot of control over, and it can cause pain and strife and all that. And as you know, my wife has a herniated disc and a bulging disc, and only in the last 4 or 5 weeks has her pain been drastically reduced. For about 3 months, it was intense. And, we had to fight for joy during those times. So I'm not discounting, maybe I should back up and say this. In all the things we talk about today, I am not discounting, I'm not ignoring the hardships that come. I've been through them. You've been through them. There are more in my future. I have no doubt. There are more in your future. I have no doubt. And if you are in one of those seasons of real grief and trial, what we talk about today will have some application, but I also just want to acknowledge I don't deny or minimize those really hard times. But we're not all there all the time, and we need to constantly, when we're not in those times, we need to constantly thank the Lord for it and find joy. So anyway, so in general, if you, so back to what I was saying. So yeah, there are things that happen to us health-wise that we can't control, but we can control so much. And I challenged you to take charge of your sleep. How you doing in that? I have continued to do testing to see how to become a better sleeper. I'm not a very good sleeper. I've never been a good sleeper. I sleep lightly, and it doesn't take much noise to awaken me. And then usually when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm wide awake. And I think I just don't need as much sleep as a lot of people do, because I function very well on less sleep. But as days build up where I've had only a few hours, then my body kind of says, yeah, you, you need longer sleep. But I also realize when I get a little more sleep through the night, I I'm alert, I'm energetic, it feels better. So I continue to test and see how I can improve my sleep. Things like stopping to drink caffeine, by 10 or 11 o'clock a.m. And I know that's admission that I'm getting old because it didn't used to bother me, but it has helped. I've tried magnesium. I've tried melatonin. Of course, what I learned with melatonin is if I take enough to really elongate my sleep at night, it carries over, and I just don't like the way I feel the next day. So I did that for a while, and decided, that's not the answer. So anyway, it can be comfort settings, temperature settings, all that. But have you taken charge of your sleep? Is there a detriment to your life because of the amount of sleep you get? And are there things you could change? They say not to eat an hour or two before bed. Make sure the room is dark and at a comfortable temperature and all that. Some studies indicate that being on your devices, your phone, within an hour of sleep can impact it. All that stuff. Do some testing. If you don't sleep well, and if you don't wake up refreshed, do some testing of try different things and see what can you change that may increase your sleep. I know for a lot of people I've talked to over the years, it's simply a matter of go to bed. Just go to bed. Don't stay up till 11, 12, 1 o'clock when you have to get up at 5 or 6 or 7 and then wonder why you're tired all day. Go to bed. What are you doing at 10 p.m. that is more important than sleep? Now, I know schedules are different and there may be exceptions to that, but I'm just saying, have you taken charge of your sleep to the best that you can to be more productive and have a better outlook on life when you're awake? So that's one thing. We talked about hitting the gym, getting stronger. I'm seeing more and more studies that indicate muscle mass deteriorates as we get older. We can do resistance training and strengthen ourselves. We don't have to become frail in our old age. I slipped down the stairs the other day. I got some new socks, and they are particularly slippery. And I slipped and fell and slid down, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7. It was a long way. My wife, I think, thought it was a herd of elephants. She came running over and thought she was going to find me at the bottom with a broken neck. And, I was able to grab the rail and I didn't stop from sliding altogether, but I was able to stop myself from sliding all the way down. And I'm absolutely convinced that because of strength training, I was able to grab a hold and get a hold of myself and just, I walk every day and trying to keep myself strong. It didn't cause great damage. And, I'm going to be a grandpa. I guess I am a grandpa. My grandson, I'm saying that in faith. I shouldn't say that. I would welcome a granddaughter too. I predicted as a son. So in case my daughter is watching this, I want to reiterate that my prediction is a grandson, but I could be wrong, and I'll be happy with it either. Anyway, I'm going to be a grandpa. I'm going to have grandchildren soon, and I want to be strong and healthy and able to play with them and input into their lives and do stuff with them. So strength training matters, and what you put into your mouth, food. Do some A/B testing. Has anybody done the Whole30? My wife and I were talking the other day about doing the Whole30. Anybody have any experience with that? It pretty much for 30 days you strip away everything except kind of lean protein is what it amounts to. It seems like maybe a few, and vegetables. Maybe you can have vegetables. And the idea is to eliminate all of this stuff from your body, from your food intake, and see how it impacts you. See how your inflammation and your pain, joint pains are, and cravings, and kind of overcome some cravings for things that are not healthy. And then slowly from there reintroduce foods to see how they impact you. Again, more and more studies show that our inflammation, our bodily aches and pains, our joint pains are caused by or worsened by our diets. which can cause inflammation and so on. Insulin resistance, all that's part of it. If you haven't done any research on that, dig into it a little bit and consider removing things from your diet just to see how it affects you. So, all that to say, to the degree that you can improve how you feel physically, your body chemistry, all those things, that impacts joy. It impacts your quality of life. And to the degree that you can control those things, are you taking charge? You know, I say this all the time. Our body, this body right here, this is my one vehicle, my one instrument through which I can get things done and interact with the world. That's all I have. I have my inner man, my mind, my thoughts, all this, but without a functioning body, I can't do anything with my mind and will. And so this machine I have been given, I want it to function as well as possible. And there is a relationship, and the body affects the mind and vice versa. So I would encourage you, do all that you can to have a highly functioning outer man so that your inner man can be as effective and prosperous and joyful as possible. Dale says, you've done the elimination diet. Did it help? Did you learn anything? Would you encourage us to consider that? Anyway, so that's the first thing. Wellness check, health checkup. How you doing? It's almost mid-year. How you doing in 2024? Are there things that you can take charge of to increase productivity, joy, all that kind of stuff? Dale Waters says to the other Dale, my schedule is currently super irregular, but I'm trying to make do. Oh, does that have something to do with something I missed? Maybe so. All right. Second thing. What are your joy stealers? Joy robbers? The joy of the Lord is our strength. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit. But we make choices that enhance our joy or rob us of joy. We make choices. So my question to you is, what are those things that rob your joy? We've all been there. I have certainly made choices many times throughout my life. Choosing to think on things, choosing to do things, and choosing to remember things, focus on things that steal joy. And I have made a commitment to the Lord and to myself to not allow those things in and replace them, to put those off and put on things that will enhance joy. How about you? What are your joy stealers? Here, I jotted down some things that that sometimes steal joy that I've seen in others and in myself to some degree. See a couple of comments coming in delayed here about the diet. Linda says, totally agree. We are just coming off a 5-day fast. Feel wonderful. Take care of the body, eat well, and stay hydrated. Yeah, fasting. That's you will see some impact of that, right? Yeah, that's good. Lewis says, or Louis, yeah, did the Whole30 2012, regular daily intermittent fasting about 16 hours. And so again, Louis, did you find the Whole30, was that profitable? Do you recommend it? Did you find some foods that were negatively impacting how you felt, that kind of thing? All right, so back to the joy stealers. Bitterness, resentment, anger, self-pity. Are you bitter? Bitterness. You've heard the saying, right, of what bitterness is? Bitterness is you drinking poison, hoping that the other person gets sick. You've been wronged. You think you've been wronged. Both of those are true, and they're both possibilities. There are plenty of people who have offended us, and some who we just imagine have offended us, but it sure seems real in our own mind. To remain bitter and to hold resentment against them does nothing positive whatsoever for you. Nothing. There is no gain. There's no benefit. You realize that? To be angry at someone who's offended you, it doesn't do anything. So let it go. Why enslave yourself to those feelings, those attitudes, and rob you of joy? It's not worth it. My friend Linda Graff wrote a book called Bitter Truth. She was enslaved with bitterness for many years. And she, by God's grace, repented of that bitterness, learned how to fight against it, fight that temptation, and she wrote a book about it. I'm in the book. I was one of the primary instigators of her bitterness, and Cross to Crown published it some years ago. If you struggle with bitterness and resentment, I highly encourage picking up that book and working through it. And there's a workbook too. And I don't know, maybe you and some family members or a small group or something might want to work through the workbook and read the book together. It's worth pondering and coming out on the other side. And by the way, she's very joyful now. For years she wasn't, but she is, because she got this bitterness out of her, so to speak. Are you bitter? Stop it. See some comments coming in here. Linda says, what robs my joy? Not being in the Word, not spending time in meditation and prayer. Yeah, that can be. And sometimes when we spend time in the meditation and prayer and Word, it helps us to overcome these other things I'm talking about, right? Oink says, I wish I could eat more meat. Everything is so expensive now. That's for sure. I started this topic and now I got people going back and forth. That's all right. Linda says, also heard it said to forgive is to set the prisoner free, only to discover we are the prisoner. That's a great saying. Yeah, very good. Lewis says, yes, Whole30 was a good start to get me on track with better general eating habits. Thank you. That's helpful. Dale says, yes, I recommend find out what makes you stronger or weaker. I currently do intermittent fasting, primary diet of meat and salad. Thank you. That's helpful. Claim your new self joy says, in Jesus, exactly, you not getting my joy. Is that, not sure what that's referring to. The bitterness, maybe, that kind of thing. So anyway, what else robs your joy? Self-pity. Oh, poor me. Poor me. Focusing on what you don't have. Dwelling on what you don't have doesn't change the situation, does it? Oh, I wish I had this. I wish life were like this. I wish circumstances were like this. I wish he would. I wish she would. None of that does anything positive for you. All it does is create the self-pity that entraps us in discouragement and so on. It doesn't do any good. You don't have those things. In Ecclesiastes, Solomon talks about that. If God made it crooked, you don't have the ability to make it straight. Now, you can pray for him to straighten it, but you can't change things. He talks about the discouragement that comes when we try to count things that we don't have. Right? There's no value wishing for something that's not true. And dwelling on the fact that you don't have that. So don't do that. That's a joy stealer. Focus on what is true and what might be true, but not on what you don't have. The Bible calls that discontentment. Discontentment ruins our joy. Now, being content is not the same thing as being complacent. We are not to be complacent. Work for things. Improve your life. Pursue things that will add those things you would like to have. But all the while being content with what you currently have. You see the difference? There's a significant difference between contentment and complacency. We don't want to be complacent people, but we do want to be content. And it only robs our joy when we dwell on what we don't have. And then finally, when we ignore God's abundant blessings. I've said this again and again. We start our home fellowship every Sunday with this. We do this in other contexts as well. I do it personally as I go for a walk and just rehearse all of the blessings that God has given. And I tend to dwell more and more on the what we would call lesser, simple, little blessings, because those are frequent and too many to count. But if we think blessings are only the big ones, like I got cured from cancer, I got the job that I had been working for years, I finally, got married. I want to be married. I finally got married, or I finally had children, or finally had grandchildren, whatever, those big ones that only happen rarely, then it's easy for us to create the thought, even in our subconscious, that, yeah, God does bless us now and then, but most of life is drudgery, and, it's like trying to walk through water. It's just so hard. Instead of saying, no, the Lord is granting daily, regular blessings, and receive them all as gifts from our King who loves us, our husband who loves his bride. Day in and day out, he's giving us little gifts of grace and favor. And the more we see those and give him thanks for those and receive them as gifts from our King, the more that we find joy, because we know that he loves us and he cares for us. You've got to count your blessings. What's the old song? Count your blessings, name them one by one. See what the Lord has done. That's a great song. It helps us walk in joy. Yeah, the drudgery in life is not our portion. This is a life of joy, life of goodness. Dale says, if I had to wait until marriage to take joy in the Lord, I'd have at least 35 years of misery. Exactly. So keep your eyes open for all the things. All right, last one I'm going to talk about will surprise some of you, and some of you won't at all, but what a day to be alive technologically. Again, these blessings I'm talking about. I'm staring at a camera and you're staring at a phone or a tablet or a computer of some sort, and we can communicate, and you can be anywhere in the world. My daughter, who is carrying my grandson, is across the world, thousands of miles away. And they're doing something for the next few days where they had to go dark. And she sent me a couple of videos today and said, don't watch these until Sunday, which is Father's Day, because they may not have phone access and she's not going to be able to call me on Father's Day. So she preempted and sent video. How cool is that? And any of you who've had family, children especially, move across the world or across the country, where your actual, being able to hug them and touch them and see them face to face is limited. The fact that we talk all the time, video, FaceTime kind of calls and phone and texting, we talk all the time. So technology, there's so much to be thankful for, so many blessings. But what's on my mind here is Tesla. I watched the shareholders meeting yesterday, and two things got my attention. And these are not new things, but I was pondering them. So when robotaxi is fully functional and the full self-driving, think about what impact that's going to have on our lives. So when we get to a place where you just summons a car to show up and take you places, think about the benefits of that. I think back to when my parents were still alive and they were in old age and their health declined. There was a bus basically that came and would take them to the doctors, but it was somewhat of a hassle, and it was a long trip because they'd have to go where the whole bus full of people wanted to go, and sometimes it would take hours and hours. And I was just thinking how different it would have been to be able to send a Tesla and they just get in and the car takes them to their doctor's appointment. I don't know. I could foresee a time when there will be cameras. Well, there are currently cameras in the car, but where if it's where they might allow access for something like this, where I could actually see them, talk to them in the car en route, make sure they're okay, that kind of thing. I don't know. That's just the kind of thing. And then the potential money savings. Some of you may live in cities and areas where you don't need a car, where you walk everywhere. But imagine, for me, I don't drive that much anymore. A few times a week, I have to go somewhere. It would save me a lot to be able to just summons a car to come pick me up and take me where I'm going, the robo-taxi idea, and not have to own my own car, that kind of thing. So I think about that. But then the big one that I see is Optimus, the robot. It's going to change the world. You're probably going to have a robot in a few years, a humanoid. Again, I think of the elder care. I think of having a robot there where I can see, it's a camera that's moving around, so I can see my parents. This full-time in their room nurse that is able to go over and put its arm out and let my mom grab its arm, lift her out of the chair to take her to the restroom or wherever she needs to go to help her with stability, to go down to the lunchroom, that kind of thing, to make sure they take their medicines. My dad would always my brother would show up because he lived in the same town, and show up and those pill sorters. And sometimes my dad's would be empty in places it shouldn't be empty. Well, to have this robot that makes sure that medicine is taken care of as it should be, those kind of things. Childcare, teaching. I mean, with AI to have access to all of the information in the world, and then to be able to have the humanoid teach some things. It's crazy to think about where this is going to go. Technology is continuing to improve human life. And if we get the government out of the way, I think it would exponentially explode. And that's, Tesla just on my mind because of the shareholders meeting yesterday. But technology is continuing to improve. And it's going to continue to make life better. That's a good thing. Give thanks for it. And give some thought to how technology already is improving your life and how it can improve our lives in the future, and receive them as a gift from the Lord. I've quoted this before, but there's a verse in Isaiah where God talks about how he's embedded secrets in the world and man keeps discovering them. You may be thinking of the Proverbs. There's also a verse there where it's the glory of God to conceal a matter and the glory of kings to find them out, kind of thing. But I'm talking more specifically in Isaiah. He talks about farmers who over centuries have learned the secrets that God embedded in farming, and how we've learned how to grow more and more crops and do it effectively, and how to fertilize them, water them, and keep the weeds out, and crossbreed, all that stuff. Those are secrets embedded in this creation that man has discovered. Well, the same thing with ones and zeros and digits. We're learning, and electricity. Who'd have thought? We were talking last night with the guys from the fellowship. We were talking about Zechariah and Revelation and how God is using pictures and images there to communicate things hundreds of years in the future. And it seems weird to us. Why doesn't he just come out and say it? but he's trying to communicate to people centuries before something comes to pass, what's going to come to pass. Well, imagine trying to explain to someone 500 years ago what electricity is. So we have these vines flowing through our walls that carry lightning, and then glass globes in our home that have fire inside them, and lightning and fire in your house, and it doesn't burn down. I mean, technology is crazy and huge blessing. Temperature controls, all the advances. How many lives are saved because we have medical detection? On and on and on we could go. The point is, God is blessing us abundantly. We need to give thanks for those things and walk in joy and gratitude. It's a good day to be alive. Claim Your New Self. Joy has, anyone remember what book is mentioned? The one I mentioned is called Bitter Truth. Is that the one? Or are you talking about the Breaking Free? Looks like somebody mentioned that as well. Space Doug. That's funny. Larry says, we can implant a Bible chip in our minds in 2,000 years when we agree on what version. Yes, exactly. That's true. Well, yeah, the Neuralink, that too is going to change the world. And I know there's a lot of fear, all this stuff. People are afraid of technology, and not without reason. But let's not just be pessimists. Let's also acknowledge all the good things. All right, we're going to leave it there. God is good. He is blessing you in so many ways. It's a great time to be alive. Rejoice, be glad, and celebrate his kindness to you. All right, have a great weekend. Grace and peace to you. We'll see you back on Monday.